Hola amigos, bienvenidos a otro episodio de TECH23, donde celebramos a Latinos en Tech y la cultura de la bandera donde representan. Hoy estamos celebrando una bandera de Centroamérica y aquí estamos con nuestro amigo Nelson. Nelson, dile al público qué bandera estamos celebrando hoy.
El Salvador.
¡Yay! Estamos explorando el país más pequeño de Latinoamérica, que le dicen, what's the nickname for El Salvador?
Pulgarcito.
El pulgarcito. Bueno, Nelson, para la gente que no te conoce a ti o que no está viendo del área de Houston, what makes you a Latino in tech?
I'm the co-CEO, co-founder of Goodspero. We started it with my wife, and it's social impact and storytelling for companies. And right now it's been companies in tech. I lead all of the video production parts of the company and operations.
When you're introducing your company or to like un tío o una tía, para que, entonces, ¿qué haces, Nelson? ¿Qué es lo que hacen al día? ¿Cómo les explicas?
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. We tell stories for tech businesses or just any organizations that have to do with tech. So some of our latest clients are venture capitalists that are in tech that are supporting BIPOC startups and women entrepreneurs. So that's our big passion. Our kind of main job is to tell the stories that we feel our communities need to hear. But we do talk about the digital space a lot. So we just tell them we help companies with their digital presence. And that's how we kind of explain it.
So video is really hot right now, especially with everything happening in AI. So I'm excited to get into that. But give me a little backtrack history. I know right now the southwest part of Houston is popular. We have some celebrities coming out of there, like the rapper Toby, the actor Mo, and now we have the media producer Nelson as well coming out that area. So can you guide us a little bit back, like donde naciste, donde son tus papás, and pues cómo llegaste aquí a Houston?
Pues mis padres son de El Salvador y en los 80s por la guerra nos movimos para acá, ¿verdad? Caímos en Houston. Y cuando ya tenía 2 años, empezamos en Gulfton, ahí es donde primero caímos, pero nos movimos rápidamente a Alief. And in Alief is where I grew up. So from 2nd grade on, Alief has been my home, and I've been really fortunate to just be there, just because of the diversity of it, right? Got me a lot of friends from Vietnam, from China, from the Philippines, so we were always able to see these different cultures and have this mentality of, well, different things aren't always bad, right? Different things can be really, really good. So I've carried that throughout my whole life and just been drawn to technology from the beginning too, right?
Interesting that you, from a very early age, were in a very diverse area. And for those that don't know, Houston's actually, if not the most diverse, 2nd most diverse city in the United States.
Yeah, so a lot of my friends were Filipino. So Filipinos, the get-togethers are awesome. So I'd be going to one day a Filipino get-together. The next day, an Indian get-together. I had Pakistani friends, right? So the Pakistani friends and food were amazing. And one of my childhood friends was a Jewish kid. So I'd be there like going from one religion, Buddhism, to Hinduism, to Catholicism, and then to a Jewish temple. So being able to see all of these things from an early age was like really interesting.
I want to know more about Goodspero. Before we do that, I actually do want to go back a little bit to your career. I know now you're using all these really cool tech tools, but where did your kind of tech journey start?
Yeah, so if you want to go way back, in high school and in middle school, I was big into taking things apart. And then my mom was able to, with my cousin's help, start getting me a computer. So I got a computer and I was really interested in how it worked and taking it apart, putting it together.
Do you remember what brand your first computer was?
Well, it was Mosh Posh, right? So there was a kid out of U of H that was building computers in a little shack. And I remember my cousin taking me to this little shack and there's parts everywhere. So this dude put together a bunch of, like a hard drive, a motherboard, and all these different things to make one that I could actually edit audio on because I was in the music at the time. So I was making little music tracks out of my bedroom with friends, right? So that's what started my passion with arts and tech. And then I ended up getting a radio job. So the music passion with my other cousin led me to get a job in promotions and radio. That turned into a production job. So I was doing the commercials. So I was like, well, this is neat. I can do little pieces of these music things and
commercials for what exactly?
for radio.
Okay.
So I ended up in Univision, and
Okay.
Univision had a radio cluster at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and they had all Spanish stations, but they had a hip hop station. So they were like, we need a bilingual person that can produce commercials. And I were like, could you do English and Spanish, but focus on the English stuff? And I was like, no problem. Like, yeah, I'm better in English anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I was producing commercials for the hip hop station. So I'd be doing like all these random commercials on there.
Anything we might still remember?
I mean, if your parents had listened to Recuerdo, there were a lot of Recuerdo, which was a romantic
Yes.
pop station
Yes.
in Spanish. There was a ton of commercials there. I did a lot, dude. There were dealership commercials. There were like a lot of PSAs. There was a car commercial. There was a bunch of random stuff that I voiced, right? But it was interesting because I got into the time in radio where we were starting to hear the Pandoras, right?
Interesting.
And we were starting to hear the Spotifys.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the salespeople were getting a little bit nervous about what was happening. And I felt the change. Like you could feel the work environment change
Mm-hmm.
from the golden era of radio to them being like, hold on, what's going to happen? And the uncertainty that the company itself or the radio cluster might get sold, or the station was going to flip. So the station flipping it meant the hip hop station that I was working for then turned into a norteño station. So they asked me, hey, we're not going to be doing hip hop anymore out of the station. Are you okay with doing, norteño and Spanish? Sí, señor, claro, con gusto lo hacemos, sin pena. So it was that was the beginning of me seeing these transition points. And that's when I was like, we need to inject tech into this as much as we can. How can we start incorporating what I was playing on the side? I was playing with a lot of video at that time. I was like, how can we start incorporating video into what these radio people are doing, knowing that radio people would tell me, you're going to ruin the theater of the mind. Like,
so how was that then? Because if I'm not mistaken, you were also one of like the younger employees, right? So it makes sense that you wanted to bring in all this change and the latest tech and all that.
Yeah.
How was that received by some of your coworkers and superiors?
It was really difficult from my peers. The superiors, they could care less because they were off stressing about other things, right? But when it came down to the talent, the on-air talent, which are the radio DJs, the older guys that were seasoned, me telling them, hey, what do you think about getting on camera, doing something for social media? And I think back then, MySpace was just dying off. Facebook was taking up. So I was like, how would you feel if we do a Facebook video? They would hate it. They were like, I got into radio because I don't do television well. And it was a tough uphill battle. One, I was younger, right? What do I know? Mocoso, que sé yo de radio. But yeah, it was tough because there was a lot of pushback because they were traditionalists and they wanted to maintain radio pure. And it was difficult because I was getting a lot more responsibility thrown on me as the staff started to dwindle because of so many riffs. So there was a lot of restructuring happening in radio because Univision as a whole was owned by investors, and these investors wanted a return on what this company was doing. So to make the company's numbers look a little bit better, you had to start cutting, kind of like what we're seeing now within the tech sector. A lot of employees were getting cut. So interesting parallel, what was happening in traditional radio, we're starting to see it now with tech. AI, what AI is doing to tech, the Spotify's and the digital realm was doing to traditional media. So I think a lot of those lessons are being able to be applied now that I'm seeing it repeat in these tech companies as they're starting to restructure because of new innovation and new digital things.
That's awesome. And you're totally right. There's this new era coming in. Some people don't understand it. Some people are already scared. Some headlines talking about how they're going to take jobs and everything. And it's the same thing, right, that happened before. I know there were similar sentiments when Uber came in for the first time and taxi drivers it's just changing the whole entire landscape. So are you able to fast forward like 5 years from now and kind of where do you see the intersection now of like tech and media blending together? What does that world look like?
Yeah, so if we look at what's been happening lately with Vice News filing for bankruptcy and a couple other like BuzzFeed and all of them starting to dwindle down, that's going to continue because what's happening, and we even see politically in El Salvador. In El Salvador, you ask somebody what they think about anything news related, and they'll probably quote you something somebody said from a YouTube video than from a media outlet. So that trend is going to continue to where citizen journalism is going to be more common now. And we're going to want to hear it from people like us other than instead of a company. Now that's going to have its own issues, right? Because who do we trust are the people that are saying, how do we verify? So what I'm hoping is that these new AI tools, we get ahead of it and we can have these AI tools help fact check things and validate things and give us a better sense of who do we listen to and where are they in the spectrum of fact and opinion, right? So in 5 years, I think those are going to be the major changes.
So let's talk about, because I have somebody expert in video here, deep fakes. And then even some of these AI images. I'm sure you saw in the rest of the world que vieron las fotos del Papa dressed in a swaggy, like puffy white jacket and everything. And legitimate news like stations picked it up and shared it as news. They did not know the difference. And a lot of people were like buying into this until like 24 hours later, it was revealed this is created on Midjourney, which is like an AI to image platform. I want to hear your opinion. Like how big of a problem can this be? What solutions should we start implementing? And then más importante, ¿qué mensaje le tienes a la gente latina con esta? Porque pues sí puede ser peligroso, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
De que miremos un video de un presidente o algo así diciendo tonterías y tú dices, pero yo lo vi, miré los labios mover, yo lo miré, él lo dijo. And it's like, sí, pero no es de verdad. Lo que era antes tus ojos ya no es ver para creer. So, ¿qué mensaje tienes para la gente?
Yeah, the responsibility we have now, it's a lot bigger. It's huge now that we need to vet what we're seeing online. No podemos creerlo todo.
Sí.
Si lo vemos en un video, lo tenemos que preguntar de quién lo hizo, por qué lo hicieron, puede que sea fake, lo que me manda mi mamá, lo que me manda mi tío, quién lo hizo, pero espérate tío. Entonces esas preguntas van a ser muy importantes. But the main message I would say is not to shy away from it, que no tengan miedo de no involucrarse más en la tecnología, porque ese es el problema. Si no nos involucramos nosotros, van a ser otras personas y nos van a dejar atrás. So we need to be in the forefront dealing with these pains, right? Because we are going to be seeing these growing pains, and we just can't shy away from it. Politically, I know it's going to be a huge, huge mess coming up. But it's that. We need to be very loud about questioning things that we see. Like, and not shying away from it, consuming more, but questioning more.
Yeah. I mean, even for me, how do you even question that? Like, literally, what steps do you take? You see a video and you're just kind of like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
What do you do normally to kind of...
Yeah, so there's some sites that you can cross-check, at least images. So images for one, you can see where the image originated. So you can do a reverse search based off of an image. I would suggest keeping an eye on AI that's being built specifically for these purposes. So find these sites that can tell you if this video is an AI or not. Luckily, right now, you can still kind of discern some of the the little extra finger, little
the
extra
text is
hand.
off, or just something just doesn't feel right about it.
Yeah, but those sites are going to be vital, especially for people that start gaining a following. And it doesn't need to be a journalist. Anybody that starts gaining a following, they should have this responsibility, this habit forming of, well, let me just double check where this came from. Let me double check where, you know, I don't know, maybe what it was intended for. Yeah. So how do we form those habits? That's the tough part, right? But I think with tech, it's going to be easier for us to do it.
Yeah. Well, I want to actually learn a little bit about your own social media habits. So I'm Nelson. I'm scrolling down my feed and stuff. What catches my attention when it comes to tech, and then when it comes to social impact? What are those things that like say, oh, porque si te miro que compartes to me, it's really cool stuff. A lot of it's like very techy, nerdy and stuff, but like I'm with you on that wavelength, and I love that. So, what are some of these things that you stop at?
Yeah, I love any new tool that's out there that makes us rethink the workflows that we already have. So if I know that when I'm writing a script, it takes me a long time to come up with these solutions or these ideas or whatever, and I see this dude like popping 5 out at the same time, working with chat, collaborating, that gets me excited, right? At the same time, I have this little fear in the back of my head, like, what's gonna happen to my friends that write scripts? The latest example, there's a company called 11 Labs. They do AI voice stuff, right? So now I remember talking about how much it costs to have somebody professionally voice something, and that being part of the thing that we have to work with for nonprofits or for tech companies. And with 11 Labs, you can choose your voice, own it. So now you don't have to keep hitting up this guy, hey, could you revoice this, please? Here, just rewrite the script and it'll spit it back out. I loved it. At the same time, I know people that do that are gonna now have to think, well, where's my place, right? So I have old friends, I have current friends that have been in radio, that are voiceover artists, or that just voice commercials. And now when we have these conversations, I don't want them to think, hey, I'm gonna be out of a job. I want them to think, hey, I have a new tool to make 7 of me.
Yeah.
And you've already heard about people giving up their likeness. I think Grimes was one that was like, yeah, use my AI stuff. Like, make me an AI person. Go.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks is going to have to fall in line too, right? All these actors.
So does that mean the famous voice that we all grew up with, like the British like nature documentaries, we can, yes.
So with the paid version of that company, 11 Labs, you can say, I want you to sound like this, upload something, and then it will recreate that. And more practical uses, if you have a client that you're shooting for, you need 30 minutes of his voice. If he messes anything up, you don't need to hit him back, you don't need to reshoot, you don't need to do anything, you could just type it up and it'll change out the words, right? Video is gonna be doing the same thing. So when people think about having somebody that is your endorser, a talent, an honored talent, you have to pay people. Now with, I think Coliseum is one, Synthesia is another company. Both of those companies allow you to do AI avatars. Some of them, you have a limited amount of avatars to choose from, right? But Coliseum, what it allows you to do is you can actually upload a picture and tell it, I want a mix between this picture and that other avatar that you have. And it'll give you your custom person. And you own that person forever. So what made me think about this? What was the scary part about this? I was like, oh my God, what about all my DJ friends? My DJ friends are now going to have to compete against somebody that's like, well, I don't want to pay you $300 to come out and do a remote every time. Now I can actually have my own talent here that's owned by the company to go ahead and do so.
Branded with a big logo or just something,
Yep, we'll not need to negotiate contracts with you. You're gonna set the terms and it's in perpetuity gonna be owned by you. So when we have these conversations with my friends that are honored talents or social media influencers, same thing. It's like in the back of our heads, we're thinking, well, is that my job? It's like, no. I think the cool way to look at it is you can have your army of influencers too. You can do collabos with these AI avatars and start providing these services. So in every role that we think we're gonna lose jobs on, we need to start flipping that and thinking, well, how can I become the person, because you know it as a talent or you know it as a script writer more than anybody. So how can it improve you and multiply and augment yourself and your services and your skills to be able to scale? So it is a shift, but it shouldn't be a shift of I'm gonna lose my job, right? It should be a shift like, well, now I have more opportunities to do things. What is it that I can do?
Correct. And like you achieved a superpower because for me, so I have graphic designing in my background. So when Midjourney came out or Dolly or some of these other ones, I was like, I need to mess with this because people were creating some badass things, new, I mean, think about just any sci-fi film, new monsters, new characters, new just the coolest stuff ever. But the best ones you saw, people that made it to their Hall of Fame gallery, were people that were designers in the past, people that were photographers in the past. So you get to feed it very high knowledgeable like data that your average person just like doesn't know. And even like, I know a lot of people, the default then is, well, then use ChatGPT to help you write a better prompt so that you can get a better image. And that's true, I've done that myself. But it still needs a little bit more of like the actual design stuff. And that's great because you know, somebody else that's just using it for the first time, they'll get a decent image out of it. It can use it for social media or whatever they need. But if you want to like award-winning looking type piece, you probably need still some more somebody that actually understands the foundation of the skill to use it. So that's the same thing like in video.
I think we're all going to turn into better curators, right? Better curators and better prompt writers.
Yeah, and so let's move from the bad stuff that could happen to the really good stuff. So recently, what is a way that you have seen people in media use technology that left you super impressed and that it's something you're excited to add to Goodspero?
Yeah, the workflows for editing are one of the things that makes me the most excited. So when we were working with nonprofits, one of the big issues was even if you have your phone, because anybody can shoot things with their phone. So that's very universal. But then you end up with all of this footage, right? You have a little GoPro, great, you can frame things up, you can shoot things, but you end up with all this footage. So the editing part was where the bottleneck is. What made me very excited is these editing tools that are coming out that automatically edit things for you. Even some of these podcasts where you have multi-camera sequences and they can go in and edit and identify which speakers which and which camera to cut to. That makes me excited because now the budgets that it takes for nonprofits or for tech companies that are doing good to put out their stories and these narratives that our communities need to hear, it's a lot easier.
That's wonderful porque speaking to Latino entrepreneurs, whether they're in tech or not, I think everybody has a plethora of videos and images and everything that you're like, no, pal rato. Like you have the best intentions to use it, pero you either don't have the resources to hire a team like Goodspero to be like, here, let me just dump this hard drive and y'all do something with it. So I'm excited that you know there's tools coming. And we just, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing with TECH23, also trying to make them easy digestible for mi tía, quizás que lo pueda usar y que ella también le saque beneficio. And it's not just like us that we I mean, clearly in the background of the shot, you see all this technology around us, which you use on a daily basis. So I'm excited about that future, that like mi tía pueda tomar videos de quizás unos pasteles que está haciendo, lo que sea, and boom, here's a very high quality product. You're using technology to boost what you need to do. And even something we saw recently, and just seeing how people adopt AI, I have this big thing on back to cómo nuestra gente puede usar estas herramientas para beneficio. And the coolest thing, so you know that you can get an image printed on a cake. This has been technology the bakery has had for a while, some edible printer ink or whatever they do to it. Well, I found a picture of a at-home baker or something that tenían una orden por un pastel de un niño que le gustaban los Hot Wheels and dinosaurs. So they went in there and created mid-journey an image that was incorporated dinosaurs and Hot Wheels, and then that's the image that they put on there, and it was a badass cake, and it's like nobody else is gonna have that cake, and now you have an AI-generated cake que la señora puede vender, and the options are infinite now of what they can do. So super cool way that we've already seen small business entrepreneurs use it. No le tengan miedo a las nuevas tecnologías que están saliendo. There's an opportunity in that fear for a new skill, a better skill. So queremos que la gente pues aproveche, porque pues de esto se trata el mensaje, de que no sean simplemente consumidores, pero que sean creadores también. Y ahí está la oportunidad. So we're excited about this podcast helping this new generation of Latinos come in. And Nelson, you're here because you make up the 23rd Latino, which is trademark pending, the 23rd Latino No, it's the Latino in the United States. So like for my personal example, mis primos que viven en Mexico, and I'm curious if this is the case with you, they only use the word Mexicanos. They don't really consider themselves part of Latinos. It's not a word they use too much because they only interact with other Mexicanos. It's not until we come to the United States and there's Colombianos, Venezolanos, Salvadoreños, gente de Guatemala, de Peru, all over, that you start to, well, in my opinion, you start to adopt this soy parte de Latinoamérica. I see the term Latino, Latina, Latinx, Latine.
And I agree with you. I think it's this interesting space that we're in where it allows us to come up and pull ourselves away from, even in El Salvador, ¿qué parte de El Salvador? De la Unión, de la capital. So it allows us to kind of pull ourselves up, see ourselves as a bigger group. So I think, to me, the 23rd Latino is that. A mentor also explained it in an interesting way. They called us estuary people. Estuary people, meaning the estuary is the space between where the salt water and the fresh water meet. Okay. In that space, it's a mix of both. And there's animals that can only survive in those both conditions. And saltwater fish can't survive in freshwater. Freshwater stuff can't survive in the salt, but the estuary people can survive in both. So the estuary kind of metaphor hit home really well, because I do feel like we have this ability to go to Nicaragua and kind of take things in a different perspective. Go to Honduras and take things in a different perspective. And it's interesting because it does away with a lot of the stereotypes that we might still hold on to. Los mexicanos no nos quieren. Tenemos que pelear con los hondureños. Gracias, José. Tenemos que pelear con los hondureños, or whatever. Like those things that have been kind of ingrained in the hardcore Salvadoran, the 23rd Latino, I think can supersede that, and then see the world in a different light. And then I think be a bridge. I think we're bridges to a lot of cultures too. So whenever my cousins from El Salvador want to learn about anything else, it's like, hey, I'm the one that could be like, no, pero mira, you know. And likewise, I think we're in a position where we can always learn more about our countries that we're from my cousins in El Salvador. I could learn so much. So when I go there, I see El Salvador with fresh eyes, and that's kind of refreshing too. I like that a lot because it's just ongoing learning, you know.
So one of the things that we really focus on with TECH23 is de que haya más Latinos as creators than consumers. Because consumidores somos grandes. A lot of us are on Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Amazon, Google. Like, we're huge consumers, but we're not necessarily large creators. And that's why we started TECH23 in the first place, to be part of this new wave of creators, to generate content. So I want to hear from you guys, because I feel that y'all have a similar energy. You are actually also creating content for us to consume that is going to be life-giving, beneficial. So I want to hear your thoughts on that. Like, what is Goodspero doing in that aspect? What are the future plans that you guys may have?
So we focused on short-term storytelling, like short stories a lot, right? Because of social media, TikTok, really short videos. Now we really want to transition into the longer format, like being on these streaming platforms. So having our stories from our communities be on these streaming platforms. We want to take that a step further and work with, or maybe even develop ourselves, a platform for ourselves, right? For our communities that is geared towards the kind of content that you're describing, right? So it always has been that if we do ever get to the point of creating something, we always put it on a platform that's not really for us. So now this is opening up. Another step we want to take once we do have a platform, or working with people that do have platforms like that, having these narratives that we should start being investors in our own communities, like that's another step. We've never really had those conversations. Growing up, we never talked about that kind of things, right? I know the majority of us don't, but we will get to that place, right? Our communities will get to that place. And when we do get there, we need to have these conversations of us investing in our communities. So can we invest in other businesses that are coming up? Can we invest in other platforms that are coming up? And that way, it just strengthens our storytelling abilities. It strengthens the narratives that we tell each other. Our representation increases. And then when you have young people looking up and actually being able to see what they can be, that changes things.
Amen. I love that. There's this negative narrative sometimes that like the whole crab-like mentality sometimes for Latinos, de que pues si tu primo está haciendo bien, you start bad-mouthing like, no, pero no saben que él es el blah, 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 blah. Well, that happens within the Mexican community, worse sometimes even with like against other Latin American countries, you think certain ways, which is horrible. And it's not positive. It's like a poverty mentality to think that you're taking something away from me versus no, there is more than enough, and if we collaborate and work together. So I am also hopeful to the next step being de ser inversionistas en diferentes comunidades. And now your eye switches to saying, ¿qué están haciendo los venezolanos, los colombianos? ¿Y en qué puedo darles mi dinero para crecer, para que crezcamos todos? Y algo que el pueblo del país de El Salvador nos ha regalado son las pupusas, que sé que a muchos mexicanos también les gusta, incluyendo a mí y a gente de todo el resto del mundo. Well, estamos aquí en tu casa otra vez y no conozco el área muy bien. No sé si tienes unos lugares que nos puedas recomendar de pupusas.
Sí, pues encontramos un lugar que se llama Pipiles, los
Okay.
Pipiles, and Pipiles are native peoples from El Salvador.
Okay.
They also have a bakery, so I think it'd be cool to check it out. They have a little market. We get to see a lot of Salvadoran things.
I'm always going to be Team Gordita fan, just because I'm like, that's my culture, I can't deny it. Pero bueno, vamos a probar unas pupusas que estén ricas con el curtido, because I know it's like having a gordita without the salsa. You just can't do it. Just wait until it comes in. Encontramos a Los Pipiles Bakery and Cafe. Ya estamos aquí, and apparently the pupusas are going to take a couple minutes to get here. So that's good things take time, right?
Yeah.
This is for the Mexicanos watching, kind of like a Central American Michoacana kind of thing vibe. We grew up going to La Michoacana since I was like a kid. Back in the day, it was like one of the only places really that like my mom could buy certain ethnic like spices and stuff to make us like el arroz and all this stuff she made. Was that the case with y'all? I mean, because now like bigger stores sell some of this stuff where you can just order off Amazon. But I have a lot of memories when I was a kid coming to stores like this. I don't know if that was the case for you.
Well, what's interesting is in El Salvador, usually the way the suburbs are set up is down the street in the corner. You always have somebody that owns a store. So the micro tiendas, right, the little small ones. So what I remember is visiting, and that really like got to me because it was this whole thing about giving children independence. Like you send them down to get bread or you send them down to get whatever. So I think me seeing my cousins, and I was 13 when I visited back, right, the first time. So seeing them be able to do that blew my mind because I wasn't able to do that here. Like I can just, my mom just give me some money and be like, go to the fiesta, go to whatever. So over there, it's like the little kids, 4-year-olds or whatever, go down the street, Tia Panchas, and then she'll go and get them whatever. So that's interesting. And here, it's only special occasions that we visit, like places like this. Like let's say we were going to have family over, we wanted to do some traditional, then we'd visit some places. Like
What has changed now in El Salvador?
yeah, so really interestingly, like my cousins specifically, and these are like stories on the ground, right?
Okay.
So I think there's different narratives that happen at different levels, and when you start like talking to people and you see their day-to-days, my cousins had a little shop that they would work out of like their garage, so they would have to pay these monthly quotas to these gangs, and this was a normal thing, and a lot of the times it's just something you do, and it isn't even like a fear thing. It's just, it's done. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And you have to be friends with them, and everybody's kind of friendly, but you're protected. Since the new president came, Bukele, they've done a huge push on getting all of these people out, right? And that's also controversial because of the way they had to do it. Obviously you're going to get innocent people swept up in all of these raids, right? But the homicides dropped. Businesses, small businesses like my cousin was doing, now they can do business without having to pay. I mean, they were paying like $100 or $300, and that's like, you don't make that much, right? So the majority of it was going to them. Yeah. So seeing them talk about it now is a crazy change. They were living And some of my family was living in Soyapango.
So,
And Soyapango was known, if you Google it, it was like the Compton of El Salvador, or the A-Leaf of El Salvador, like very, very rough place, right? Now that's changing. Like all of that's changing. I remember visiting when I was younger, and the fear that they had, I didn't see it, I didn't feel it, because it'd be regular dressed people, not like here that are you know, like you see somebody and they're like, oh, you question it. Over there, regular dressed kids, and you would see my female cousin's face be like, hey, let's just hurry. And we wouldn't know why. And then when we'd get home, they'd be like, man, that guy was the whatever. So from that to now them being like, no, it's safe, come on down. We wouldn't even be able to get on certain buses because certain buses were controlled by different people, and we would only be able to get on certain ones. So things like that has changed tremendously, right? I feel like the population is super happy now, the way that things are going. It's turning into more of a tourist place.
Especialmente para los emprendedores, because from my own personal experience, you have to have an ability to say, I can safely start a business, even if it's just selling food outside my house, but it's like a way to move forward. But when you know that, well, if I reach a certain level of success, it's going to be like clamped down. Well, it kind of takes away the motivation to do anything, and then multiply that feeling across the entire country. And that's really, really bad for the economy of the country and the sustainability of like a good quality life. So I'm super happy to hear that. I've never actually visited El Salvador, but maybe we tag along with you guys next time to go visit un volcán. Okay, so there's another thing in like tech news and crypto and Web3. El Salvador has been actually all over the place, which is really cool to see. A Latin American country kind of leading the way in certain things. And like you're right, the president has maybe done a couple controversial things, like you can see it either way. But the Bitcoin, it's very interesting regardless. I mean, I think everybody kind of knows what Bitcoin is for the most part. It's a cryptocurrency. But for those of you that don't know what El Salvador did, why it was so important, can you kind of give us like a little 30-second spiel of qué es lo que pasó?
So the president rolled out an app. And with this app, he gave everybody $20 worth of crypto being digital currency. And he also made it a state-sponsored currency. So it's an official currency of El Salvador, Bitcoin. So now you see paleteros that can take Bitcoin. You can see little stands in the corners that can take Bitcoin. So people being able to just use their phones, because everybody has a phone, but not everybody has a bank account. The percentage of people that have a bank account is extremely, extremely low, because there was a distrust in the government whenever the war happened and a lot of people lost their money. So Bitcoin is an answer to that.
Interesting. I can't wait till the day I buy a paleta from the paletero guy with Bitcoin. That's like a really cool experience. Okay, we need to upgrade the pulgas and the swap meets here in the U.S. with some crypto. Also, for those that don't know, what is the official currency of El Salvador?
So El Salvador now is $1. It's the same currency as here. So before this, it was El Colón, right? But a lot of stuff happened, and the dollar got adopted.
You as like Salvadoran, pero vives aquí en Estados Unidos, what's your take on it? Like of the country adopting Bitcoin so strongly?
Seeing how the country had been for a long time, and then knowing that it was something that was needing so much change, right? It's really, really cool to see these types of like large experiments happen. It is an experiment, I think. It's just we needed to do something. So I'm all for diving into something, because the way things were going, it wasn't going to have the country do anything good quickly, right? And that's what it needed. It needed to do something different, to try something totally different, to be able to leapfrog a lot of the issues that we're having right now economically, right? So something like diving into Bitcoin and getting the population at least accustomed to like, hey, we're going to be trying these new ideas. I think that's a really smart thing to do, even if they fail. Like we do need to fail and almost see it like this startup type of environment where we're trying different things, seeing what works, and whatever can boost the economy. Seeing this makes me super proud, right? Obviously, there's going to be people that are like against it, right? But it's okay. We need to be trying these new things to see if we can somehow lead the way and set an example for the rest of the country. There's a lot of things to learn from that. Yeah.
Well, Salvador usa crypto, official currency US dollar, and then also I heard a line from the president the other day saying that it's now one of the safest places in Latin America. So we'll be booking our flights soon to go visit and go try some good food, some pupusas from like the originators of them. What makes pupusas different back home than the ones you've tried here, or you pretty much try the real thing here?
No, I mean, so it's very different, and I think you have to get them from a street stand, and the neighborhoods usually have it. So I talked about there's always a little store in the corner of the street, right? At the same time, if you go down a little bit down the main streets, you'll see some of the houses that they make pupusas out of there. Those are the spots you want to go to. Those are really, really cool because you get to know the family, you get to know the people, there's the kids running around. So that's something extremely different. And I don't know if that changes the flavor of the food, but the feeling for sure.
Miren la delicia que nos trajeron. Nelson, this is your realm. What do we have in front of here? And then let's start off by, I immediately asked that I was going to need a knife, and Nelson's like, stop. Okay, so why, this is like a cardinal sin not to...
Yeah, so the thing is, if Salvadorans see you eating pupusas with a fork or a knife, it's a big no-no. You have to use your hands when you eat. You have to use your hands when you eat pupusas. So it's grab the curtido,
Okay.
put some curtido on the pupusa, right? And a lot of people use the tomato
Not
sauce.
right? Not like that?
Yeah, you can get a little fancy with it.
I'm going to make a mess. Me van a regañar.
You can get some of the sauce, the tomato sauce on it. Then you tear off some.
Ah, okay, so not like a
So
taco.
you
Sorry, by default I was doing
and
a
you
taco.
try to grab the curtido in it. And the messier it is, the better.
I still made a taco, sorry.
That's a revuelta. And this is frijol con queso. Let's see the reaction. What do you think? Yeah? This is amazing.
Y para terminar, para el latino en tech que está afuera ahorita viendo esto, que se quiere meter like on the media side of things, what advice do you have for them? Whether it's somebody switching careers or somebody just trying to get into it for the very first time.
If you're switching careers, one of the biggest things that I would suggest is always be on the lookout for the newest tech. So get on the newsletters for ChatGPT or AI. Check out those podcasts where they're talking about the newest tech, because as you're in your job and you start to see all these new tools, you start thinking, how can I implement this into my work? And if you're starting off, like let's say you're a student or something, be curious. Like curiosity, I think, can drive you towards something better than people telling you, follow your passion. Sometimes it's hard to know what you're passionate about. But if you're curious and you start trying these different avenues, trying these different places, and then you bring interesting perspectives into it, I think that's a really, really good way to find what your passion is, because you just end up falling into it through curiosity, right?
Awesome. Well, me encanta el mensaje para cerrar. Stay curious, guys. Thank you for tuning in today. We are going to keep eating. Muchas gracias por estar with TECH23. Go stay curious.